An alien named Midgascaus, who lives on the planet Astral of the Milky Way galaxy, answers the questions. Maxim Rusan organized a conference in the city of Voronezh in connection with an unusual woman, Irina Podzorova, who can telepathically, mentally, and astrally communicate with real aliens living on other planets in our time. And Irina can also communicate with personalities from the spiritual world. She has spiritual vision. Conference theme: Human Destiny, the Higher Self and Past Incarnations.
Participants: Irina Podzorova, a contactee with extraterrestrial civilizations. Maxim Rusan, Director of the International Center for Spiritual Development, Cassiopeia. Maxim asks,
Irina, tell me, did the Americans land on the moon?
Irina answers,
Yes.
There are no coincidences. Is that correct?
Yes, that's true. Everything has its meaning and purpose.
Who or what creates them, and is it possible to consciously influence them?
Irina.
They are created by the spirit before incarnation, in alliance and counsel with spiritual world advisors, whom you call higher teachers. They always design and send the spirit into circumstances and conditions that will promote its development and the growth of spiritual vibrations compared to material ones.
Thank you. At what point does the spirit enter the physical body? Is it during the production of the sperm, the creation of the egg, their fusion, or later? Does it come from the parent or from an external source?
When the parents are chosen. Guides accompany the spirit to its incarnation at the moment of conception. That is, when the male and female cells merge. The spirit that is to incarnate while still outside imbues these cells with its life force and remains near the mother. It can temporarily leave her and travel in the astral, but its life force will remain in the cells. However, it directly enters the embryo, the earthly human fetus, at the 7th week of development, as the nervous system does not permit it earlier. Before entering, its memory is blocked. It settles into the body and spends the rest of the pregnancy adjusting to its new form. Of course, it may temporarily leave and travel in the astral. It will have vivid visions and memories. You know that a baby in the womb also sleeps and wakes. During birth, the stress the child experiences, along with pain and fear, erases the last remnants of memory, leaving it to perceive the world as a newborn and begin developing and growing in its new incarnation. However, the experiences accumulated in past lives directly influence it. This is why, even with identical parenting methods applied to different children, they grow up to be distinct individuals.
Understood. Thank you. Is it possible for a child to retain information about past lives?
Yes, it is possible to retain information about past lives. The spirit's memory might not be entirely blocked. This is done to allow the spirit, in its current material incarnation, to utilize this knowledge for a specific purpose tied to its incarnation, if these are positive memories. If the memories are negative, this experience is retained to encourage the spirit, in its new circumstances, to reassess its attitude toward the events of its past life that caused low vibrational frequencies.
Thank you. There are many power plants on our planet. What is your perspective on them, and what alternatives for energy production do you recommend?
Power plants represent a stage of development that we also experienced, and that is necessary for you. I recommend that your scientists develop a device similar to the one installed in our ships, which allows us to activate a gravitational engine and generate a plasma field. As you saw in the schematic, there is an energy installation. Its operating principle is based on converting high-energy cosmic radiation into visible light, electricity, and radio waves. Part of the energy is used to form a plasma field. If you create such a device, you will be able to simultaneously neutralize radiation in areas with elevated levels and convert that radiation into massive amounts of electrical energy.
It seems like you've already read my next question. What is radiation?
It is a second-level energy that does not need to be forcibly extracted from matter. It is naturally emitted. In this process, one substance transforms into another, releasing energy. This radiation energy can damage the first-level energy found in the molecules of the human body.
I see. Thank you, Irina. Why are there animals, reptiles, insects, and other creatures on Earth, and is it permissible to eat them?
I grew up on Astral, and what happens here with animals is, of course, unusual for me. But I understand that it is a part of your civilization, your culture, and it cannot be changed, as your food industry relies on animal husbandry and agriculture. Things could not be otherwise here. Of course, all forms of animal bodies, insects and what you call birds, among others, were created by God when designing the conditions for the evolution of these material shells. He knew how they would be utilized by incarnated spirits. It is no coincidence that the bodies of Earthlings and some other humanoid races were specifically designed to digest animal proteins in addition to plant-based ones.
Thank you. Can a spirit incarnate in an animal?
If we're talking about a sentient spirit, a limus, then it can only incarnate in a being whose brain nervous system structure allows it to think, perceive, dream, and do all the things that sentient spirits do. The nervous system of an animal does not permit this, as they operate on different vibrational frequencies. Therefore, a limus spirit cannot merge its life force with an animal's body.
What kind of spirits incarnate in animals?
There are animal souls called aromes. After the death of their physical bodies, these souls also leave them and remain in the astral realm for some time. They often linger around the place where their bodies perished. Whether the animal was wild or domesticated, as well as the level of development of its soul, plays a role. Different species, and even individuals of the same species, can have varying levels of development. According to data from our astral travelers, these energies that make up the animal soul gradually dissipate in the astral space over a period of several weeks to several months, and in rare cases, up to a year in Earth terms. Eventually, the animal enters a state of sleep. It simply falls asleep, forgets everything, and dissolves.
Thank you, Irina. That's an interesting question. How many human sins are there, and what are they?
Sins. Could you clarify what you mean by sin? I can explain a bit in my own terms.
Sins are actions that negatively impact the development of the human spirit.
And how do you define the development of the human spirit? I need to know to answer your question. What does sin mean to you? I want to adapt my terms to your understanding.
Thank you. No need to answer this question. I already know the answer. I'll provide it to the person who asked me. These questions were written by someone who's curious about how you would answer them.
Development can happen in different directions, and accordingly, various things that hinder progress in one direction or another could be considered sins. Different things may be labeled as sins. I understand that you know what I mean. If the person meant development toward goodness, sins would be described as harmful or malicious acts. Unfortunately, however, development can also occur in the opposite direction. It's also possible to develop by perfecting malicious acts, becoming more cunning or skillful in them. For those operating at these levels of consciousness, harmful deeds would be considered good, and the opposite would be labeled as sins.
Thank you. That's a fascinating perspective.
That's why I asked what development means to the person who asked the question. What ideal has this individual set for their development? The number and nature of sins depend on that ideal.
How can one learn to hear their higher self correctly? How can its thoughts be distinguished from one's own? That is, from the noise in one's head that a person creates themselves.
In your human body, there is only one way to know the will of your higher self. The higher self is essentially you, but with access to information about your past and your life's purpose. This term is used to make it clearer to you that it refers to a level of consciousness higher than the one you usually operate at in the material world. How can you ascend to the level of consciousness of the higher self? This can only be achieved through spiritual growth, by recognizing that material achievements, while important, are merely tools for spiritual refinement. Once you fully understand and internalize this realization with your entire being, you will transition to a new vibrational level that allows thoughts from your higher self to flow into your consciousness. You might refer to this as intuitive insight. How can you distinguish it from your fantasies? Fantasies are often reflections of your desires for gratification, whether on a sensory level or a more subtle one. On the other hand, the higher self and its intuitive revelations won't speak to you about these things. Instead, they will guide you toward fulfilling your purpose. This typically involves increasing love within yourself and the world, expanding knowledge, and pursuing wisdom, all of which bring you closer to divine vibrations. Any thoughts and feelings that draw you closer to these ideals are expressions of your higher self. Conversely, thoughts that lead you toward judging others or believing that love should be reserved solely for yourself are a rejection of the higher self.
Thank you, much appreciated. What is conscience, and does a person need it?
Conscience is another reflection of the higher self, but it is more closely tied to the moral norms of society. As you know, every spirit, when incarnating, has its memory of past lives blocked. Moral norms manifest in the form of feelings about what is acceptable and what is not. These feelings are referred to in your language as conscience. If an action you've taken and its consequences were already experienced in a past incarnation, your higher self, through your conscience, will signal that it was wrong. Even if you cannot logically explain why, you will have a clear sense that it is incorrect, regardless of whether everyone else around you perceives it as normal. This is how conscience works, often beyond the reach of logical reasoning.
Thank you. That's a very interesting response. Why did the Notre Dame Cathedral burn down?
I engage in communication with contactees and do not follow the news in your world.
All right. Thank you very much. I understand. Let's move on. You describe your world as ideal, but what in your world dissatisfies you? What do you disagree with?
I can only speak about Esler or the Interstellar Union.
For now, I'm only interested in Esler, your personal opinion about your planet and your world.
Overall, I am quite satisfied with our government. It's structured a bit differently than yours. Our society functions as a hierarchy. We are governed not by a single individual, but by a communal council. Each city has its own council, and representatives from these councils are selected to form what you could call a planetary government. The laws enacted on Esler seem fair to me. As for what I dislike, as a scientist, I believe our government should focus more on education. We have communal schools, as you would call them, where we educate children. I think our government should place greater emphasis on fostering not just the spiritual aspect of children, but also, as you do, increasing attention to studying physical sciences. Our education system is specialized. Not everyone studies subjects like mathematics or the hard sciences in depth. These are only studied if someone chooses a scientific specialization. Otherwise, our education system emphasizes psychology, social sciences, and the arts. Personally, I would increase the focus on the hard sciences.
So, we would increase the focus on spiritual sciences here, while you would like to increase the focus on material sciences. Thank you, I understand. Do you have the concepts of deceit, lies, and falsehood in your society? Do your people ever deceive one another?
The concepts of deceit, lies, and falsehood are what you might call sins, in the sense that they separate one from the divine, from its energies. They are not characteristics of civilizations, but rather of the spiritual levels from which the spirits come. As I mentioned before, just as every monastery might have a sinner, every prison might have a saint.
So you do have deceit and lies, but to a lesser extent?
If we look at the levels of governments, ideologies, and propaganda, then there is less deceit in the sense that we have no wars or crimes against our people, as you do. Thus, our governments have no need to claim that everything is fine when it is not. And if lies or deceit do exist, they are usually at the level of interpersonal relationships, not as part of state ideology, which is very prevalent in your world. However, deceit always has a purpose.
Thank you. What are dreams, and where is our spirit actually located while we sleep? Kirkheighton. How could Kirkheighton appear during a session with Mid? Does this happen?
Mid saw him making mental contact.
Will there now be a contact session with Kirkheighton?
I don't know. Dreams are partial memories of journeys outside the body. The thing is, your nature allows you to exist in the astral realm while the body sleeps. Since the spirit itself does not need rest, unlike the physical body, it leaves the body while it recovers, similar to how you leave your car in the garage and step out of it. What you call dreams are partial recollections of what occurred.
Why are they partial?
Because you were not fully conscious. Your body wanted to sleep, and so you left in that state, remaining unconscious. Moreover, when returning to the body and reconnecting with it, even the last fragments of memories fade away, because you immediately focus on the material world and begin acting within it. This is a subconscious defense mechanism aimed at ensuring survival in the physical world. In earlier times, humans had to wake up ready to act for their safety. Focusing on astral visions could have endangered them.
So does this mean that in dreams we are entering the astral?
Yes. The astral is a more modern term for that part of the spiritual world where the souls of people go while their bodies sleep.
Thank you. Which came first, the chicken or the egg?
The process of evolution, as you generally describe it, is correct, but evolution was guided by divine energy within all beings. That is, even in the beginning, as parts of cells merged with one another, proteins and other molecules, they did so under the influence of divine energy. It was a directed evolution. Organisms then gradually advanced based on living conditions and underwent natural selection. That part is true, because environmental conditions can gradually alter the genetic code. As for the birds, the creatures from which your modern chickens descended, what came first wasn't the chicken or the egg, but the information encoded in their DNA about their physical form. Naturally, this information was first encoded in a cell, but what kind of cell could lead to the emergence of a chicken? Naturally, it would be an egg.